Good morning, everyone. My name is Joyce Zhang. I'm a PhD student at the University of Pennsylvania. I was supposed to present today on behalf of Alexis Andres, the first author of the paper. However, due to a delay with my visa application, I'm not able to travel to Montreal and present this work in person today. Therefore, Alexis has been gracious enough to prepare this video, which I'm about to play next, where she presents this work titled Anxiety, Achievement, and SRL in QThink.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our presentation on anxiety, achievement, and self-regulated learning in QThink. To start, anxiety is generally defined as an affective reaction to overwhelming cognitive and motivational demands that are tied to highly valued academic situations. Individuals prone to anxiety exhibit more negative outcomes, such as decreased performance, uncertainty, and exhibit more avoidance behaviors that can impact their confidence and academic success. When learners engage with a subject in which they experience anxiety, they are more likely to underperform as a result of hyper-focusing cognitive and attentional resources on their apprehension and concern regarding the demands of a task. Although previous research has established the impact of anxiety on learning, few studies have examined this within the context of interactive learning environments, with some exception. As ILEs become more prevalent at all levels of education, it is important that we consider how individual differences between students may impact their experiences so that ILEs can be designed to better support students' needs. The effects of anxiety may be compounded within ILEs, where there may be reduced immediate feedback from instructors and increased demands of metacognitive skills. By better understanding how anxieties may manifest within ILEs, we gain not only a better understanding of the phenomena, but the potential to respond to and scaffold student experiences to anxiety to ultimately produce better learning gains and support positive perceptions and attitudes. This paper examines the effects of anxiety within a digital learning application called QThink, an open-ended math problem-solving platform. This study leverages a multifaceted correlational approach to understand what constructs are related to anxiety within the context of a math-focused ILE. We collected a broad range of measures in order to identify how anxiety relates to changes in students' usage, belief, achievement, learning, and performance, the previously developed detectors of self-regulated learning behaviors, and usage behaviors within the ILE that correspond to response patterns and language. Through these analyses, we attempt to build a better understanding of how anxiety can influence learners within an ILE and how features of learning experiences can be used to eventually build systems that can identify and mitigate the influence of the effects of anxiety. QThink is a digital learning application that scaffolds math problem solving and encourages mathematical discourse through open-ended problems and corrective feedback. Students are asked to think aloud while they solve math problems, create a shareable screencast video of their overall problem-solving process, as well as their final answer. Within QThink, students work on thinklets, which are step-by-step processes for solving math problems. And these consist of 4 phases, including the understand, plan, solve, and review phase. Once students have completed the problem, they share their screencast explanation for peer review. And using previously developed detectors, student interactions also produce values for SRL behaviors, and these will be further discussed in the following slides. A total sample of 213 students participated in the larger studies. However, as is common in classroom studies, not all students completed all the measures. All students were drawn from 3 middle schools from a large suburban school district located in the west coast of the United States. The participants identified their gender as majority female, 53%, ranging to male, non-binary, and other. And the sample also included a diverse range of ethnicities, with the majority consisting of Hispanic or Latinx, Middle Eastern, and multiracial individuals. Pre-test and post-test survey measures were administered within the course of the study. Students were given approximately 75 minutes to complete 3 different components. The first is a paper and pencil math assessment by Illustrative Mathematics. The second, an online suite of questionnaires distributed over Qualtrics. Lastly, was an adaptive cognitive evaluation to measure executive function. The several instruments were used in this study, including the following. First is the adaptive cognitive evaluation, implemented through a series of game-based cognitive tasks around 3 core executive functions. Content knowledge was measured using the iReady diagnostic assessment, administered 3 times throughout the school year, towards the beginning, middle, and end of the academic year. An abbreviated version of the Junior Metacognitive Awareness Inventory was administered to record both subjective and metacognitive scores. Anxiety was recorded using a modified abbreviated math anxiety scale, and math epistemological beliefs were measured using subscales 1, 5, and 6 of the Indiana Mathematics Belief Scale. The IM measure developed by the research team was a 3-item problem-solving measure that was given to each grade and was scored for accuracy and understanding. In addition to these surveys, we also analyzed the relationship between anxiety and students' SRL behaviors using detectors that were developed using qualitative codes, originally developed by Zhang et al. 2022. AUC ROC scores are presented here alongside each observed behavior, and these scores indicate the probability that the model can correctly distinguish between classes, where 0.5 represents chance and 1 presents perfect classification. Throughout the study, we extracted the amount of time each student spent completing tasks within each phase of their thinklets. Students' text responses were also analyzed for linguistic features using the Linguistic Inquiry and Word Count program. And we attempted to minimize type 1 errors by selectively choosing the lexical features under the cognition category of Luke. This category reflects different ways people refer to their thought processes. Anxiety scores and survey measures were analyzed using Spearman correlations and Benjamini Hochberg post-hoc corrections. Our results show that higher anxiety before using QThink is negatively correlated with math epistemological belief scores and achievement, indicating that increased anxiety scores at the beginning of the study correspond to poorer mathematics performance and more negative beliefs. A similar, though less salient relationship can also be observed between post-tests of anxiety as they negatively correlate to IMBS scores and achievement. The reduced effects of anxiety may potentially indicate that learners gain a better understanding of the problem solving throughout the study. And correlations between anxiety metrics and linguistic features were also conducted, however, did not yield any significant results. Correlations and post-hoc corrections were also calculated to examine the relationship between the different survey responses and the amount of time students spent in seconds in the review and solve phase of their thinklets. Our results indicate that the more time spent in these phases is associated with students engaging more frequently in specific SRL behaviors of numerical representation and outcome orientation. Additionally, increased time spent in the solve phase negatively correlates to math performance on the IM metric. The relationship indicate that despite the increased opportunity of students to engage in SRL behaviors, this may not necessarily correspond to improved performance. Linear regressions were also conducted to examine the influence of anxiety and time spent in the solve phase, as well as their interaction, on outcomes of achievement and SRL behaviors. The linear regressions examining the interaction between post-test anxiety scores and time spent in the solve phase on achievement and SRL behaviors revealed that post-test anxiety had a significant interaction effect with time spent in the solve phase. A simple slopes analysis reveals that this interaction was predictive of increased math achievement, where more anxious students who spend more time in the solve phase are likely to perform better on their iReady scores, where the students who take less time are more likely to perform worse. Regressions were also conducted to predict linguistic variables using anxiety scores and time spent in the solve phase. However, there were no significant results from this analysis. Overall, the combination of findings captures the influence of anxiety independently and in tandem with other significant interaction variables. Through this analysis, we found that higher pretest anxiety corresponds to lower achievement scores within the math-based platform, and that a large portion of the sample experienced anxiety. Though not a particularly surprising finding, these results are important in contextualizing the influence of anxiety within this kind of platform, and to better understand which aspects of the platform usage or content contribute to anxiety the most, and how this will be valuable to developing learning platforms that reduce student anxiety. Further analyses shows that students with increased levels of anxiety take more time in the solve phase, but perform better on math-based assessment. Anxious students generally tend to avoid stress-inducing materials, negatively impacting their academic outcomes. We also found that students who are able to overcome anxious reactions are also able to mitigate the effects of anxiety on their performance. And the inclusion of time may aid in identifying anxious students and offer helpful interventions in response. Overall, these results demonstrate the importance of student anxiety within ILEs. Our work seeks to highlight the differences in interaction that emerge among students based on their experiences of anxiety and how these, in turn, can impact various aspects of their learning experience and outcomes. Future work should examine anxiety at the same level of the actions completed by the students within the platform to support the development of automated detectors of anxiety. These detectors would support fine-grained analyses that can parse moment-by-moment experiences of anxiety and its influences on behavior, allowing educators, researchers, and designers to build anxiety-sensitive interventions to enhance educational experiences for anxious students. Thank you very much for listening to our presentation today. For any follow-up questions, or if you are looking for a new member for your research team, Alexis Andres, the first author of today's work, is about to graduate, and you can reach me at either of these email addresses. Again, thank you very much for listening, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you.